Hello, House Nothing welcomes you to a brand new YouTube channel, a brand new YouTube series on one of my favorite Web3 games, Dragon's Crossing. I want to help you learn the game if you're brand new. I want to help you get better if you're not brand new by showing you what I know about this game. I've played since the beginning and done quite well, and I'm happy to share. I'm going to try to be consistent and refer to this series as a gameplay guide as opposed to a let's play. Our good friend I Know Kung Fu is doing a let's play like he does every season, where he chronicles a few heroes' journeys through the season. This is not going to be quite that. This is going to be more focused on theory and learning and sharing what I know instead of the adventure of a certain hero. And I'm going to be doing it a little bit more sporadically. I probably couldn't make a video a day if I wanted to. If you're a brand new player who's just bought or registered their first hero, you're in the right place. I welcome you to play along with the Arbitrum free trial if you're up to that. All you need is a little bit of ETH on Arbitrum to do a transaction, and you can follow along with this guide and I Know Kung Fu's Let's Plays all the way up until Zone 3, I believe. We're going to be going through Zone 1 today, of course, with a level 1 warrior that I've been holding back for this series. Tomorrow I'm going to do the same with both the mage and the ranger. I'm hoping these two videos will be about equal in length, because today I have a lot more to explain than I will tomorrow, and I'm going to try to keep the repetition to a minimum. I have a list of a few key concepts that I want to cover in this video. I may gleam over a few other things on purpose, just with respect to the fact that I don't want to drop a 4-hour manifesto on everything you could possibly know about Dragon's Crossing Day 1. I have not yet devolved into that state of mind, but maybe towards the end, after I do 10 of these, 20, who knows. Anyways, what you're looking at now is the main site of Dragon's Crossing. If you hit this button, it'll take you to your NFTs. If you hit this button up on the top right, it'll take you to the Discord, where myself and a lot of other community members are available to answer any questions and help you as much as we can. There are a lot of current DFK players, such as myself, as well as some former DFK players that you may recognize in the Discord if you are joining in response to the Season 4 DFK collaboration. Some of you guys may know me from being on Grady's stream, Doug Hype's stream a couple times, ADFK, Bogside Chats, all of the boys. And if you saw me on Grady's stream, which I think is the most relevant one to this, you probably will recognize this sheet that kind of outlines what I want to do with my Season 4 heroes. I did this for Season 3. It helped a lot. I think a lot of what we covered in Season 3, which was right before the season started, held up and is still very good info. There aren't a whole lot of changes as far as we know between Season 3 and Season 4, because they were mostly focused on the DFK chain integration. And I'm not going to go into that too much. I know that if you have a DFK hero, they've basically just gotten rid of the roadblock that you needed a Dragon's Crossing hero, so you can just pay the USDC registration fee to try out the game instead of buying an NFT and paying the fee. If you like the game, good news, it's really easy to bridge over to Arbitrum, or it's really easy to deposit with Coinbase and lots of other ways. And you can buy NFTs on the OpenSea there. There's quite a lot that are listed, and there's a bunch of bots in the Discord that can help you keep track of that if you want to get into the game. But most people, I believe, will start with either the DFK integration or the tutorial. So everything I do for the first, 5-6 videos of this series, maybe less, I don't know, will be available to kind of follow along with on the tutorial. Like I said, you can go all the way to Zone 3, which is a significant part of this game. It's very nice, a very nice feature that has come into play for Season 4 that will help new players a lot, because there are quite a few pitfalls that we're going to talk about, but nonetheless, you may forget what I say today and do them anyways, and you might enjoy the tutorial to learn the hard way on that. Certainly, I did not have that luxury, nor did anybody else in the project since Season 1, since the mint. That's when I've been in this. And so I recommend either of those options. But enough about all that. You've probably been staring at this sheet for a little while as I'm talking about something else. You see on the top left, these are my warriors. I'm going to register at least 5 of those. My rangers, at least 4. And my mages, at least 6. That kind of is indicative of how I think the classes vary in power level, but they are all pretty close together. We'll see, though. It kind of varies season to season, and we've not yet gotten much notice about any gameplay changes. That should be dropping soon. That being said, today I'm going to play, Gundela. She is a Genesis hero. There is a small difference between Genesis and Rift heroes in this game. Genesis heroes can find summoning shard NFTs, whereas Rift heroes can only find skill books and the new NFT Mandrake Root. So summoning shards are getting more and more rare as this game goes along, and that's why I tend to register more of my Genesis heroes than Rift heroes. I do have a few extra heroes that I'm not going to be playing this season just because last season 24 heroes was way too much for me. If you feel up to it, go for it. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody, but I think 14 to 16 is a good amount if you're extremely experienced. If you're kind of experienced in this game, I think 2 to 5 or so would be good. Obviously, if you're brand new, start with 1. If you really like it, you can pick up another 1 or 2. You have time in the season to change your mind and go a little harder if you want to. There is a buffer built in, meaning that you don't have to play every day. If you have something going on or if you just forget, it's perfectly fine. It doesn't count against you. But as for me, I'm going to be playing these heroes at least. I may add a few, maybe 18 at the most. But let's talk about Gundala. She's a warrior. She is a Genesis hero. This orange box means that she is legendary, meaning she has a higher chance to get both summoning shards and skill books and Mandrake Root. She has a total of 39 skill attribute points, that is kind of middle of the pack, a little bit low. So I probably wouldn't play this hero, except that she is a legendary Genesis hero. So there's some sort of financial incentive for me to play this hero as opposed to a slightly better Rift hero, which is something to consider. That being said, she is perfectly fine. The main difference between her and my other warriors are that she only starts with 12 of her main stat, which is strength for the warrior. Ideally, I would like that to be 15 or 16. You see that a lot in the heroes that I buy from the market, which is a good thing to talk about. I recently got a DM from a DFK player interested in this game and asking me what sort of heroes he should buy. I didn't have a great answer at the time, other than watch these 5 2-hour-long streams, which is not that great. Of course, I do recommend that you go back and listen to as many streams as you want. If you do find yourself enjoying this, I can tell you that I Know Kung Fu does a great Let's Play series, which is going to be a little bit different than this, where he does chronicle several heroes' journey through the season, and is very entertaining. This video, however, hopefully it's entertaining as well, but I'm mostly going to be trying to get you started on the warrior class. Obviously, strength is the most important thing. I consider quickness the second most important thing for pretty much every character, especially the warrior, because my favorite build on the warrior focuses on quickness as their secondary stat. You can also do a build around charisma. That's what these yellow boxes are, by the way. That basically means, other than their main stat, this is what I want to focus on in terms of skills. Again, if you are able to watch the stream I did with Grady, we talked a lot about character builds, and that's something that's not going to come up today hardly at all on day 1, but it comes up a lot starting probably around zone 3, around level 7 or 8, when you can start to use some good skills that can really bolster your hero's chances to cash. So in addition to strength and quickness, you see I have, for my rangers and warriors, I have some of them highlighted with their charisma. That's what this is. And basically that means I'm going to build these characters slightly different, especially in the early game if they start with 9 or 10 charisma, as opposed to like this guy is good except only has 4, so I just ignore charisma completely. If you have 9 or 10 charisma, some of these agility points that I'm going to use later in the game just for critical hit chance, I'm going to put in charisma early on in the game, because in zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, you can get some pretty decent persuade checks. You'll get gear as well that can make even your dumb ranger who doesn't care about charisma at all can actually succeed on quite a few checks. So that's why I have those highlighted. Also, like I said, I think agility is pretty good for most warriors. There are some other wonky builds that I'm not going to be playing today that I'll probably play this guy at some point. This is actually a wisdom warrior / charisma warrior, where this is one of the few characters that I don't focus on quickness, which is a kind of a high risk and theoretically high reward strategy. I have not actually been highly rewarded with this character or some others similar to it yet, but I remain hopeful, and maybe I can play a little better this season and have a little better luck and do something with a non-quickness warrior or a non-quickness mage. I have a few of those as well. So that being said, assuming that you are not a wisdom-based warrior, I would say wisdom is the worst stat. the one that I care about the least on a warrior, just because it gives you a little bit of dodge, but it actually gives you considerably less dodge, and then agility gives you critical hit chance. That was a change they made for balance a couple seasons ago, because dodge is a lot more powerful than critical hit. So I really have no interest in wisdom on this warrior, so I don't care that it only has 5. What I really care about is this aggregate of quickness and charisma along with strength. That's what I'm shopping for on pretty much everybody. I like wisdom on some warriors and some rangers. I really like charisma, even more than quickness, on some mages. Other than that, I mostly just want the highest rarity I can to get NFTs. I prefer Genesis Heroes, but I'm perfectly fine playing a Common Rift. And I want the high base stat and the high quickness charisma, like I said. So that's kind of what I shop for. I bought this off the tavern. I bought that off the tavern. I bought most of these off the tavern. I did mint several and got airdropped a few as well. So I'm kind of like 50-50 between buying off the OpenSea, and stuff that I've just held since mint. I haven't really sold hardly anything because I love this game. I don't know how else to say it. It's not for everybody, I guess. It's basically based in D&D land, excuse me, if you like rolling dice and kind of making spreadsheets, as opposed to, whatever the kids are doing in terms of first-person shooters or sports games. It's nothing like that. But it's just all high depth, high strategy type of game that I absolutely love. So back on our main page, the other yellow button that matters here, there is a dragon paper where you can read about a lot of the mechanics I'm going to talk about. That still plays. And then if you hit this, it will show the NFTs that are in your wallet. Like I said, I have quite a few. Most of them are level 2. Most of them I've played once thus far. Like I said, there's a buffer, so I'm not in a huge hurry. Like if I miss a day on a hero, I generally quest like half of my heroes every day. Or I did when I had 24 and still had plenty of time. That's why if you're unsure, if you feel like you're late to this for season 4, you're not. It's probably better to watch my first couple videos. Watch I Know Kung Fu's videos also, and then if you decide you want to play in a couple days, you'll probably be better with that knowledge than you would be if you started, on launch. So here is our girl Gundala. You can see basically all of the information I just had on that spreadsheet shown in a different way. Shows her skills. We only have basic skills today, and that is a pretty big problem for the warrior. So let's go ahead and talk about the different classes and why it matters that the differences between a warrior, a mage, and a ranger. In my opinion, they are pretty close in power level. That has played out through the finishes throughout all the seasons. But the warrior does play a little bit different than those two, and I'm going to tell you why right now. So like you'd expect and like we've already covered, warriors are based on strength. So the main thing that strength does for a warrior, and main stats in general do for their heroes, is affect their bonus damage. Some of you may have noticed on my sheet I had up, there are some other parts. Don't look at those. It's fine. We'll get to that. But these bonus damage scales from 2 to 3 to 4. They basically have inflection points. So you really want a warrior that starts with 16 strength, because right off the bat they get an extra damage. I'm going to be in the less than 16 tier. Hopefully not for too long, but I'll probably be in that tier for level 2 as well, which is what sucks about registering a 12 strength hero, but we shall persevere. And once I get to 16, I'm going to be looking to do whatever I can do in terms of gear to get to 21. Like I said, these inflection points really matter, especially early in the game, because everything has sort of lowish HP, so any point you can add to your damage is extremely impactful. Whereas later in the game, there's going to be stuff with a lot of HP, so adding like 1 point here from 59 to 61, it matters, but it may matter to focus more on defensive gear. It may matter to focus more on your chance to evade attacks or mitigate attacks and stuff like that. But early on, I just want as much damage as possible just to get the fights over with. So back to Gundala and her poor 12 strength. In addition to that bonus damage, this affects your chance to parry. So I only have a 2.4% chance, but this is going to go up pretty rapidly as I get gear. Right in the beginning, you start with gear, everything except for a ring. A ring adds a lot to your parry chance. Your offhand weapon adds a lot to your parry chance. If you get a two-handed weapon, that adds a lot of stuff you find will add to this, but strength will also add to it. So warriors are going to be just passively better at parrying. whereas mages who focus on wisdom are going to be passively better at dodging, and rangers who focus on agility are going to be passively better with their chance to hit, chance to crit. That's one of the main things, differentiating things between the three classes. Another main thing is that every other level, starting at level 3, you get a bonus when you level up. And for warriors, that's going to be 3 HP every time on every odd level starting at 3. Whereas rangers give you only 1 HP, and you also get a quickness, which is nice. Mages get 1 HP, and they also get a charisma, which is also nice. But warriors are really going to pile on that HP, which is great. And at the end of the game, you will see that a warrior has at least 30 or so, maybe 40 more HP than most of their comparable mages or rangers. Another thing that affects a warrior is quote-unquote warrior gear. There's a difference between quote-unquote warrior gear and actual warrior weapons. When you get a weapon in this game, it is designated to one of the 3 classes, and if you are the wrong class, it will be red and unable to equip. But if I get a weapon of the right class, it's very impactful, especially early in the game, if I can get a 2-handed weapon or an offhand weapon especially. But those weapons and that gear that boosts strength, I call in quote-unquote warrior gear, because it can be equipped by anybody, but it's mostly going to be equipped by warriors that want to boost their strength. And that tends to come with HP. That's just how it's coded. It also tends to come with a higher armor mitigation amount, which is different than the proc chance. That tends to be higher on mage and ranger items. Ranger items tend to have a lot more quickness. Mage items tend to have a lot more charisma. It's kind of a reiteration of those class bonuses I was talking about every other level. The equipment also reinforces, would be a better way to put it, that the warrior is going to be more focused on hit points than the other classes. So I did say that we get a higher armor mitigation amount, which is actually not what you want early in the game. It's what you want late in the game. It's extremely useful late in the game. And it kind of a lower mitigation proc chance. And that's just the chance that this is going to matter. We'll get into, you'll see what I mean once we start fighting. But on the other side, the warrior shields give a mitigation proc chance amount. So it kind of makes up for the fact that your strength boots, your strength helmets and such have a lower proc chance because your shield is going to make up for it. Whereas a ranger or a mage offhand tend to focus on parry instead of mid chance. So it kind of balances out. I would say if you were to define the warrior, it would be by their defense. So between the high HP and between the high armor mitigation amount, which if you're brand new, this is probably gibberish, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean when we get into the combat. Don't you worry about that. But the warrior is more of a defensive build. Its offense is medium, mostly on the fact that its skills are not as good as the other 2 classes. I think that is a game design choice, because if the warrior was the best defensive and had awesome skills on par with the ranger and the mage, it would probably be the best class by far, whereas they're a little bit more balanced this way. But you should know that any way that you can do extra damage with your warrior is extremely impactful, because they're just naturally going to be more defensively minded. So speaking of skills, everybody starts with 2 basic skills. The warriors are, they're pretty crap, to be honest. That's the main problem with a warrior compared to the ranger and mage in the early game. Once they get to level 7 and beyond, they start to get a few more tools, but honestly, like I said, the skills are the biggest weakness of the warrior, and you start right on level 1. Because we have 2 pretty medium direct damage skills, whereas the other classes have damage over time skills, which are much better. And I'm going to have to get into that in part 2 when I start playing the ranger and the mage. And we're going to go through what these equation means once we start attacking with them, so you can tell exactly what your expectation is for using these skills, which becomes very important in terms of what you load at the Adventuring Guild and how you use it during your day's fights. So enough about warriors, let's look at Eidos. This is where we are, kind of our home base. It has these 6 tiles. We call these tiles. When you go to a new zone, this is actually not a zone, like I said, it's just a home base. This is the first zone. It only has 3 tiles, and one of which is not unlocked yet, but we'll get to that. And then once we unlock that tile, you can go to zone 2. You have to unlock a certain number of tiles to get to zone 3, etc. But let's look at these kind of on a low level. Stuff like Blacksmith and Shared Stash have a very specific use. Camp 2, to be honest. Adventuring Guild and Herbalist are the 2 most important ones that you're going to use a lot, that are crucial to your gameplay, because Adventuring Guild is how you level up and deal with your skills, and Herbalist is, for most heroes, the only way you're going to be able to heal. So at some point I'm almost certainly going to die, and we're going to talk about Blacksmith and Shared Stash a lot with respect to that. But right now we can look and see that if you spend one quest, you can get these items, and these are bad items. You should not do that. But we should talk about what it means to spend a quest. So every day you get 15 quests, which are somewhat unfortunately named. You might also consider them like taking a game action, like an action instead of a quest. So you don't want to be clicking around unless you know what you're doing in these places, because a lot of places like in the Healer and the Share Stash and the Blacksmith, actually you can just click a button and use quests, and also you can do that on travel tiles. So you want to be careful and think about where you're clicking and read what it's telling you. Or this is kind of unclear, but it's saying this is the cost of one quest. So we don't want to do that. We start with all this stuff. Like I said, this is useful when you die, because when you die you only get to keep one item, and you can supplement that item from the Blacksmith. Also, once you get a bunch of extra gear, you can smelt the unwanted gears to get other quests. It's not a free quest, it still counts against you in terms of the game, but it can be a strategic, it's kind of a higher level thing to do. But I'll probably use it pretty quickly in Zone 1 and Zone 2, so we'll actually get into it quicker in the game than you might think. That being said, I did just talk about quests in terms of keeping score in this game, which is quite interesting. The goal of the season is to beat the level 5 boss, or Zone 5 boss, excuse me, in the fewest number of quests possible. So last season, I believe the winner was Ellen at 212 quests or something like that, and you get 15 a day, so you know, that's on the shorter end for sure. If this is your first run through, you know, anything under 300 is great. Even if you can't, if you can beat the game at all your first time around, that's actually quite good. I will make a side note that it appears at least 2 heroes are using the new NFT that they dropped last season called the Mandrake Root. That's how they're able to speed ahead like this. They're not gaining any tactical advantage in terms of beating the game quicker, because all these quests are counting against them, but there is an NFT that you can use basically to ignore your cooldown timer. Normally, once you're done with your 15 quests, you have to wait 23 hours. If you use that NFT, you can actually skip that 23-hour cooldown period. So that's why there are some people that have used 100 quests and 47 quests, when the maximum that you would really be using at this point is 45, I believe. Yeah, 45. Most of my heroes have done either 0 or 15 though at this point, though I'll probably play some more tonight. Like I said, there's a built-in buffer so that I'm not, worried about it at all. Like I said, I've been holding this guy to play on stream, this gal, excuse me, and yeah, we'll get into that. The benchmarks, I rarely focus at all on benchmarks until the very end. They don't actually matter until the very end, hardly at all. Maybe the last Zone 5 benchmark matters, but mostly I just ignore this entire leaderboard until we get to the end. I just keep my head down and try to make as many good micro decisions as I can, trusting that it's going to add up for me and result in a good finish, and that's exactly been my experience the last 2 seasons. Like, I didn't even know last season which of my characters were running really well until somebody posted it in the Discord and added me and said, hey, what the hell is going on here? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that one's doing pretty well. I just don't focus on that at all. Like I said, just keep my head down and grind. Another thing I don't focus on much is the Shared Stash, although I did use it today. If you play enough characters, there will be times where you want to use the Shared Stash. Basically what this does is it lets you, for 2 quests, have one of your heroes drop off an item that another one of your heroes in the same wallet can use 2 quests to get. And that is a steep price, no doubt. So you should only do it in extremely kind of niche circumstances. This is a Goblin Dagger. This is the only offhand weapon that's available. And I had a warrior that was just having just a terrible day. Like, he fought all these trolls and had to run, and he almost died and had to heal like so much. And towards the end, I was just like, I'm not like giving up on that hero by any means, but he was in a situation where he was maybe going to be able to get 1 more XP, or he could put this Goblin Dagger in the Shared Stash, and maybe a Ranger can make better use of it. So I think I'll probably play a Ranger on stream in this next video and pick up the Goblin Dagger so you can see just what kind of an impact having an offhand weapon early is, and you actually, how you get this. You actually get this, there's a loot table for every enemy you face, and this is on the Troll's loot table. We're going to talk about the Troll quite a bit in these first 2 videos, don't you worry about that. So that's the Shared Stash. My advice is not to use it that much, but then again, I didn't follow my advice, so you be you. Next off, we're going to briefly talk about this camp. So when you click this, it gives you a warning, which is good because this is one of the ways you can really screw yourself if you're a new player and you kind of misread this. So what it says is when you camp, unsecured NFT items are sent to the blockchain. In other words, when you find one of these fancy pink drops that are very rare, but that's how you get summoning shards and skill books, you have to camp in order to make it an NFT, aka mint an NFT on the Arbitrum blockchain. And that's the only time you should use the camp. What I don't love about this description is that it tells you that your hero is healed, even though that is technically true. You do not need to camp to heal your hero. That's what I think a lot of people think when they first start playing, just because that's kind of how D&D works, and that's kind of how you would think a game works, is that you camp like a video game. But you don't need to camp unless you find an NFT. So that is the trap that I would like for you to avoid, because it says here, all remaining quests are consumed and counted against you. If I were to accidentally hit this button, I think you have to do a transaction too. You know what? Let's get this button off the screen so I don't test that theory. If I were to hit that and go through, I would be at 0 of 15 quests with a 15 quest used. So basically, I would have just wasted my entire day if I started off camping. Don't do that. Also, another thing people mess up in the very beginning, because it's not that intuitive, is you start with your items unequipped. So you can open up your inventory. Inventory is not hotkey to I in this game, which kind of annoys me. So that would be one quality of life improvement, is to be like every other role-playing video game in the world and let you hit I. But anyways, this is the starter gear. It's very bad. It's actually named deprecatingly, hand-me-down red leathers, ill-fitting sandals, etc. So you can know that you just want to replace this. Dang, by the way, I did not get a bonus damage on my axe. Warriors have a unique characteristic with their starting gear where they can get a bonus damage on this axe where the other classes cannot. I think this is to balance out the fact that their starting skills are so much worse, but also it's not 100%, so I just kind of got rugged on my 12 strength warrior, which is really bad. I think I have like the minimum damage you can do, pretty much. 3 to 8, womp womp. But complaining aside, I did manage to equip my gear, so I'm not going to go into the prairie and start punching a goblin in the head, which is an unfortunate thing that new players kind of do, assuming that their gear is equipped. Similarly, when you start the game, you have 12 skill points, and you need to go to the Adventurers Guild, which is what I just clicked, in order to get here and deal with your skills. So I have these 2 starter skills. I also know this skill, but I can't use it until level 7. That's why this is red. So I'm just going to focus on these 2 on the left for now. Grapple costs you 4 points. It's got a wall of text. We're going to get into it when I use it. Overhand chop costs you 5 points and has a much more concise, bit of text that we're also going to talk about. But I have 12 points. 12 points, 5 does not divide into 12 very well, so I'm going to load 3 grapples. If you do the math, that works out, as opposed to 2 overhand chops or 1 overhand chop and 1 grapple. But I can always come back here, and I need to come back here actually when I level up. And when I level up, I'll get another skill point and I can reconfigure my skills. So this is the Adventuring Guild. I can use this mostly to level up. This is where you use the Mandrake route to kind of boost your guy. If you want to be on the leaderboard with 60 quests done, that's how I would do it. You can summon from here. You can learn skills on this guy. This is how I learned Berserk. If I wanted to teach this character Run Like the Wind, I would. I do not. Or Mastered Blow, similarly. These are not very good skills. And then we identify skills that we find with NFTs. I can identify them right here. That costs 1 USDC, by the way. Summoning costs 10 USDC, and you need a shard. So there are, basically, I just described, in addition to signing in for the first time and registering your heroes, those are pretty much all the transactions that you need to play Dragon's Crossing. Okay, so we've gone through all of Eidos. We've gone through the warrior class. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of explanation in this video, because just to get it out of the way, probably less, but also a lot of explanation in part 2 as well. But for day 1, this series is mostly dedicated to new players, but I'm going to obviously have a lot of advanced tricks and intermediate tricks that you might not have thought of. But we are at 33 minutes. It was my aim to get this under an hour, and we're not doing very good, but we'll try. It's time to fight. We have, in fact, equipped our weapons. We have, in fact, equipped our skills. Let's look at our character sheet just a little bit. I've already complained about my damage and my strength. Our quickness and charisma are decent. That matters early. Our chance to crit, we can't do much about. This is our starter gear. We have about a 10% chance for our armor to matter, which is a way to think about armor mitigation proc chance. Proc is like just a gamer term of weird origin. It's like, I forget the story exactly, but everybody says proc for like the chance something happens. But when this happens, about 10% of the time, I will mitigate this amount of damage, which is 6. And this is just based on like gear right now. You don't get anything in terms of your armor based on your wisdom or any sort of leveling up or stuff like that. This is all based on gear. Whereas your chance to dodge and your chance to parry is mostly based on gear, but also somewhat based on your strength and your wisdom, like I described earlier. And you start with a bunch of dodge, but not a bunch of parry, but we can get a bunch of parry reasonably soon, and we're going to get that when we boost our strength as well. Other than that, we have our 3 skills shown, and let's get into the combat. So there's not too much to this Zone 1 Enchanted Fields area. Once you get into the later zones, there will be like 5 tiles, I think, to unlock. So it becomes more of a, that's an RNG element, is that you can unlock those tiles in a timely fashion. Right now, we don't even really want to unlock this tile. It leads to the next zone, and we're not going to the next zone. So I just want to grind. What I want to do in terms of efficiency is convert these 15 quests into as much experience as possible. I have 0 of 7 XP right now at level 1, so when I get to 7 XP, I'm going to go back to the Adventuring Guild and I'm going to level up to 2. So what I want to do, like I said, is get as much XP as possible. That's our goal for day 1. And let's see what happens. Okay, we got a stag. I'm not going to show off the loot table right now to overcomplicate things, but there is a table that shows what drops what and what to expect in terms of monsters in each zone. I'm just going to tell you that stags and brigands and especially trolls are the tough fights in Zone 1, and goblins, dwarfs, and adventurers are the easy ones. So you kind of want to get the easy ones, but you can get some nice gear if you're managed to kill one of the tougher ones. This guy's a little bit on the tough side. 21 HP is a little tough. The damage is about the same. Arcane. Okay, so there is also a modifier on a lot of these enemies that you can scroll over like I just did. Chance to dodge increased by 30%. So this is not that bad on the early ones because he probably doesn't have that much dodge. So like if he had, say, 8% dodge, why did I pick 8? 6% dodge. 30% of that, is pretty easy, 1.8. So it's not that big of an increase, but it does matter a little bit. It matters more later in the game when you and the monsters both have high amounts of stats. So let me turn off auto roll. It is off. It's off. Okay. So we're going to go through kind of the fight process. Every round there's an initiative roll based on your quickness. We have equal quickness as it starts. If there was going to be a charisma check, I would have already seen it with this persuade. So basically, my only decisions on this fight are, do I want to use a skill, which is maybe. Do I want to flee, which is no. I don't think he's going to do 75 points of damage to me. And that's about it. Otherwise, we're kind of just deciding right now if we want to use a skill. So how I like to think about skills is, since I have 3 uses, I want to use those to lessen the time that I'm fighting the hardest monsters in this zone. That's one way to put it. Let me think. Another way to put it is, I want to use my skills, since they are direct damage skills. All they do is do a certain amount of damage. I want to use them to kill the hardest monsters as quickly as possible. I can't control that I'm going to hit. I can't control how hard I'm going to hit. I can use a skill here and chip off basically 20 to 25% of his HP, and I am going to attempt to do that right now. So grapple, like I said, it's got a wall of text, but it's not really that big of a deal. In Dungeons and Dragons dice, you can basically do an expectation for all of your die rolls. It's the number of faces on the die, which in this case is 6, divided by 2, and then you add a half. I know that might have been hard to follow, but the expectation of a 1d6 is 3.5 damage. That's half of 6 plus a half. It works for a d10. Half of 10 is 5 plus a half is 5.5 expectation. So that's what I kind of use to, in my head, see how much damage I'm going to do. So I'm going to do 3.5 plus my strength and agility, the sum, divided by 13. What does that mean? Well, in addition to using our please excuse Dear Aunt Sally parentheses and division to make sure we get this equation right. We need to know that our strength is 12 and our agility is 5, so that is 17 in total. Wow, 17. That is so low. So I divide that by 13. That is only 1 point of damage. So I'm going to do 4.5 damage with these grapples, which is bad. I didn't quite realize it was that bad, but I'm not going to use 2 overhand chops anyways. So in this game, there's partial hit points. There is partial, pretty much all these percentages that you see, but damage rounds to the nearest whole number. So when I divide by 13, 17, I get 1, and then a remainder of 4/13, right? So that rounds down to 1. If I had gotten to 7/13, because I had maybe 2 more agility and 1 more strength, then that 7/13 would round up to 1, and I would do a d6 plus 2 damage, but my hero is not a very good grappler, sadly, so we're just going to do it 4.5 damage on average here. Let's see what happens. It'll let you roll the dice if you have auto roll off. Like I said, we're going to add 1 to this, and we got max damage, so 21 has become 14. And now we're just going to attack. So, as you can see, he went first. That's because he won the initiative roll. Like I said, we both had, I believe, 8 or 9 quickness, so it was a 50-50 shot. I believe that the initiative roll works like the flee roll, but I'm not 100% sure. I do know for a fact that the flee roll is a d20 plus your quickness divided by 4. So it's not deterministic, very easy. You have to exceed their quickness by 40 to guarantee it. There's always kind of a chance that the improbable event happens. I believe initiative is the same way. But also, who goes first in the first round of the fight rarely matters. What matters is the last round of the fight, which we'll get to. So, we did 4 damage. I'm glad we did 7 damage with that skill. I want to get out of this fight as quickly as possible. That's the point of using grapple there. Okay, this stag used a skill and nailed me, unfortunately. I have hit though, and I got pretty medium damage. So you can click on this to see that it's getting 5 points of damage from the dice roll and 1 point of bonus damage. Like I said before, with 12 strength, I have 2 points of bonus damage, and I got rugged on my axe, so I have only 2 points of damage. That's why my 2 on the die is only getting to 4. Like, honestly, on a 16 strength warrior with a better axe, you can have 5 to 10 damage, like, pretty easily on a warrior. So I'm doing 2 less damage than a lot of warriors do starting out. It's sad. Also, they have cast Majesty. Increase monster difficulty to hit by 25% for the next 3 rounds. Let's talk about that. It's going to show up here as a status effect, basically, along with my grapple, by the way. I was ignoring this part, but it does exist. It does track the status effects here. So now that we have our first reference to monster difficulty to hit, let's go ahead and talk about what goes into an attack roll, basically. There is a multi-layered process where the first part is pretty opaque to us players. This is something we don't really know. There was some talk about getting a battle log into Season 4, but with the DFK integration and partnership, it didn't quite work out to have the development time to do that. Hopefully in Season 5 and moving forward, we'll have a battle log, like something hidden that I can click up here and see exactly what's going on with the attack rolls. But what we do know is that every monster, when you're trying to hit them, has a difficulty to hit, and my hero has a chance to hit. We don't know the multipliers. We don't know exactly how it's calculated. If I had to guess, based on the rest of the game being based on D&D, maybe you roll a D20 and add your chance to hit multiplier and compare it against the difficulty to hit, kind of like the armor class system in D&D, but I don't know that that's true. I'm entirely speculating. So basically you decide in some way whether you hit based on your chance to hit versus their difficulty to hit. Then you decide if they dodge or not. You know, like I said, we have about a 27% chance to dodge. This elk has some amount of percentage to dodge, probably less than that, but reasonably high compared to some of the other monsters here we've noticed. So they either dodge or not, and if both of those things go in your favor, then you hit, and then you roll damage. And then they have 2 chances to mitigate damage. First, obviously all the monsters have armor mitigation chance, and all the monsters have a chance to parry. So, like I said, if the hit goes through, you roll damage, and if there's a parry, then it's decreased by half. half the damage gets chopped off. And if the armor mitigation proc chance happens, right now I'm only at 10%, but that's going to get higher quickly, then I would prevent 6 damage flat. It's not a percentage of the damage coming to me, that would be parry. That's the difference between those two. So those are the 4 things that happen to either decide if it's a hit or a miss, and if it is a hit, it decides how much of the damage gets through. So we're going to see a lot of clanks, that is the armor mitigation thing, and we're going to see a lot of parries, and we're going to see some crits as we get higher. Those percentages are all pretty low right now, so we probably won't see that many. Oops, here we go again. They went first, I went second. We're just going to do damage. There's not much to say here. We did decent damage for once. Okay, and we killed them. So in that instance, they went first and missed me. Like I said, we had equal quickness. So if they had hit me, I would have taken extra damage based on the fact that they went first. Like I said, early in the fight, your initiative or your speed doesn't matter that much. Late in the fight, in the last round, it matters a lot. I'll see if we can find a better example of that so you can see it. And I have wretched luck and found nothing worth looting. This happens quite a lot, but loot is very plentiful in this game, so we'll get some pretty soon. We took 12 damage and we go again. That was probably the longest fight we're going to take. Mercifully, I promise. I'm not going to explain that much every fight. There's just not that much to explain every fight. This guy's a level 1. I'm just going to attack him until he dies. I'm not going to use a skill. So, attack 1. I hit. So he clanked. That means his armor mitigation chance went off. So I should be doing a d6 plus 2 for 7 damage, but he has a mitigation damage of amount of 1. So I did 1 less based on his armor. Go again. Oops, he did a skill. And maybe we kill him. Nope. Alright. So what is... Oops, I missed a skill. Anyways, he's got 4 left. He went first. Unfortunately, I really wanted to win that one, but... He did 0 damage despite rolling a 4 here, where he would have done 5, except that my armor mitigation, which is that static amount of 6, procced on the 10% chance, and therefore he did 0. So now, hopefully I'm going to kill him with 4 damage, though it's not for sure. I could roll a 1. I did not. So he dies. And again, I did not win the initiative on the last roll. So we got loot this time. These are some nice... sandals. Let's go ahead and take all, and then we can look here. So like I said, all this loot, and don't pay attention to the rarity on the starter loot, by the way. It's kind of a red herring, or it just doesn't matter. I kind of wish they would just make it all common, to be honest. It just confuses people, but it doesn't do anything. However, rarity on normal items does do something. In fact, in this case, these rough slippers have a 3.5% crit chance, which over doubles my crit. And that's based on the rarity bonus. That is very nice. So we're absolutely going to do that. So now if we look at our sheet, we've gone from about 10% armor mit chance to 13, and our crit has gone up by 3. Awesome. I think we also gained a point in charisma. So if there's a persuade chance, I'll have a chance to do better. That was great. Okay, this is not great. So here we have it, the infamous troll. Zone 1 is basically 3 easy guys, 2 medium guys, and then a super hard guy. This is the super hard guy. He's kind of a mini boss, but not officially. So you can see he's level 4. I'm level 1. It actually comes in a level 5 variety as well, which will give you an exclamation point saying, hey buddy, probably don't fight this. Anyways, once you get to level 2, and especially level 3 and 4, it becomes kind of a business decision whether you think you should fight the troll, whether the risk is worth the reward. But like honestly, I could probably kill him if I use both my grapples, but he's gonna basically cost me like 2 heals if I try to fight him, and he might actually kill me. So this is a pretty easy run for me. The only reason I would consider fighting him is because he's level 4. If I was a ranger, I might also consider fighting him because he drops that dagger I showed earlier in the shared stash. But right now, he can give me a nice ring, but mostly he's just gonna wail on me. So I'm going to use my 8 quickness against his 3 and do a flee. And we see here, we roll a d20. It's not, so I talked about before with initiative, it's the flee. Well, I'll just show you. Let me just show you. I rolled a 14, he rolled a 19. Unfortunately, he hit us. He only has 2 bonus damage, really. But he's got a d10 or d8. Oh, he's got a d8 plus 2. Okay, so I rolled a 14, and then I add 1/4, 25% of my quickness. So 14 plus 2 is 16. Unfortunately, he rolled a 19 that time. So even though I have more quickness, he was able to stop me. I'm just going to try to flee again. There's not really much to do other than that. We just try to get a little luckier. Hello. 14, 14. This time I succeed because my quickness is higher. My effective check is a 16. His is a 14.75. So basically, we wasted a quest because of that troll. A lot of the RNG at this point in the early game is just avoiding trolls. Now that there's a skill to that, you just either run good or you run bad with respect to them. Let's try to run good going forward. Okay, a brigand, and this time the persuade button has lit up. This happens, I forget if it's 10 or 15% of the time you'll get a chance to persuade before the fight comes. You can't use this persuade after you attack or use a skill or anything like that. So right now you decide if you want to do a charisma check in D&D terms against this guy, and I do. This is one of the benefits to having a character that starts with a high charisma. And I also found a hat. What did I find? I found sandals. That gave me 1 charisma. That's why mine's 1 higher. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is also a d20 roll, but you just add, you add your full charisma, but it's like a weighted scale. It's not, well, I'll show you the scale at some point. Okay, so we did good. So we rolled a 13 and we added our 10 charisma against his 5 plus his 5 charisma, and we beat him by 13, which is more than enough to get our experience, and we get loot for free. So instead of taking, like from a brigand, like we could have taken 15 damage from that guy quite easily. And instead of that, we just get everything for free because we succeeded in our persuade check, which was awesome. We did not get any loot though. Not awesome. All right, keep going. All right, this is a deadly level 2 goblin. Not too bad. 18. This is kind of tough for a goblin. He only does 2.2 to 5 damage though. I'm not going to use a skill. I have 2 left with 10 quests. I'll try to save them for something more scary. So let's just attack. And we're going to turn off auto rolls soon. Clank. So he probably mitigated 1. Yep. Again, we should have done 5 damage, and he's doing good. He did just as much as us. That sucked. Alright. Did not quite kill him, so he gets to attack us. He did max damage. Not great. We need to do 9. I wish we did more damage, and maybe we'll crit. 8. Damn it. So he did his skill this time. So for one round, he does more bonus damage. So like he'll do 2 bonus damage instead of 1 if he hits me this round. Hopefully I'm going to go first with my 8 quickness against his 5, and I'm going to do 1 point of damage before he gets to attack me. That's the idea. Let's see. Oh, well, I missed. Dang. And he did his bonus damage with the Girlywurg, right? Status effect bonus. That's from the Whirligurg. I said that in reverse. So that really sucked. I really wish I had hit that, and I would have saved myself 9 damage. So basically, we are getting basically max damage from this goblin, and it is sad. Alright, we hit him this time. So this is where quickness can potentially save me. Another one of those stupid like 9 damage hits or 5 damage hits, because I'm going to go first and I'm going to kill him before he gets to go, which is very important. This is how quickness can save you HP, is that he's automatically going to miss. Like I said, I'm not sure I said, but I wish this had a graphic that just like X'd him out. Instead, it looks like he's actually rolling and missing, but he will always miss in this scenario. So our speed prevented potentially some damage. No loot. 38 of 75 health. This is a spot where we could consider getting greedy and going for a double heal, but I almost never do that. I don't think it's worth the risk. There's just so little reward. What I mean by that is a single heal heals for 25 right now, 33% of 75, whereas a double heals for, if you're able to double heal for more than 50, essentially is what I'm saying, you gain a little bit of value, but it's super thin. I'm just going to single heal. I don't do that hardly ever. I just don't think it's worth the risk. Alright, single heal, go back. Get another brigand. Do I want to use a skill? Only 16 health on this one, but pretty good damage. He does the same damage as me. I'm going to go for it. Now, oops, I'm going to turn off auto roll. We clanked, fortunately. We prevented 6 damage, so he would have done 9 damage. Wow. So yeah, you see, no, he would have done 8 damage. I prevented 5. My new sandals have 1 less armor mitigation than the old one. and I crit. I rolled a 1. I got my 2 bonus damage, and I got 2 crit damage. Like I said, crit increases your attack by 50%. It did not round up, though, in that scenario, which is a little interesting. All right, let's turn on auto roll, because we got to wrap this up. And I saved. Let's go. This time we hit. We both clanked. Ow. Okay, and that time we got him. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit quicker now. This is how I like to play kind of when I'm on my own. I decide basically based on this initial screen whether I want to use a skill or whether I want to be vigilant and try to flee. In this scenario, this is a level 1 rival adventurer who does very little damage. I just want to attack him until he dies, and there's not that much to think about. But there will be, certainly, with these 7 quests, there will be significant things to think about. So I'm just going to shortcut this a little bit and kill this adventurer and get no loot yet again. Alright, we have found the tile I was talking about earlier, which I could click to go to Zone 2 at level 1. I have 6 of 7 experience. That is a terrible idea. I'm not going to do that. The monsters there are very difficult. They will kill me. And in order to get back and level up after one more fight anyways, I do need to be here in Eidos. So it's just bad. The only reason to do this is to set the benchmark and take a picture and put it on Twitter. Personally, I prefer posting my Twitter brags based on the end of season instead of day 1. So that does not appeal to me. Neither of those is lore. It did the first time around. If this is your first time playing, I recommend that you play with the sound on, listen to the voice acting, read the lore. I've played it enough. I don't need to go through the lore. Alright, 6 out of 7. We could heal. I'm not gonna, because I'm not fighting a troll anyways, and nothing else can really do 45 damage, especially not this guy. Alright, so I have to... okay, we got him. I have 2 skills left, which is a good thing to be thinking about. Here's some more lore. Hello? Oh, dang it. Alright, this is bad because I know what this non-combat encounter does. This is just an unfortunate thing where this is the only one we've gotten, and this can actually hurt us. It can't help us because we're at 7 of 7 experience, so any experience that we gain will be wasted, but this chest can actually take an item from you. Hopefully it doesn't take my shoes. I'm going to choose this because I have a better chance of not losing an item. And I'm going to go through these non-combat encounters in detail a little bit later. So basically, if we had gotten that 1 combat earlier, we would have made use of that 1 XP. If we'd done it 2 combats earlier, we could have even tried for 2 XP, and I would have. But in that time, there was nothing we could do. We just wasted it. All right, so back at the Adventurers Guild, I'm going to level up. You hit this button up here. You roll 2d4s. Your average total is going to be 5. We got 6, so we can't complain, including maximum hit points. Let's look at our sheet from before. On Gundala, this is why I list. This is especially important if you're playing a bunch of characters so you don't get them confused. Although most of my warriors are built the same, I'm going to do strength first, then quickness, then agility, or charisma actually on this character. But I can only put points in charisma or agility if I have a 3 or a 4 on this dice, and I got a 2. So it's just going to be strength and quickness. Let's go. And we have gained a skill point. So whenever you're in the Adventurers Guild, you can basically tinker with your skills any way you want. We went from 0 to 12 to 1 to 13, so I can unlearn a grapple and learn an overhand chop instead, which does more it does more damage than grapple, although they probably do the same right about now. I'm not going to do the math at this point. We already did the math on grapple. Do we want to heal? I think the answer is yes. We have 2 skills to work with, but I don't think it's really possible at all that we can get through these 6 quests with 45 health, which is what you're starting to think about at this point in your day. That's why skills are good to have, but I think it's just too few. If I had 54 or 60 instead of 45, I might be thinking about trying to avoid the healer, but right now I'm just going to use the healer, and this opens up the option to fight a troll if I see one, because now I'm level 2. Although I have basically no gear, right? Ugh. I found shoes, so I might not even fight a troll. Oh, my damage didn't even go up. I'm still at 14. Oh man, this character is not doing well. I was really hoping to find some gear there. I didn't though. Them's the breaks. So we're doing the best we can, you know. What can I say? Alright, we've got a goblin. We're just gonna attack it. I'm still nursing these 2 skills in case we fight something harder. I can have more options. I prefer not to take a million damage from this goblin for no reason, but that happens when you don't do any damage, like me. So, that really sucked. I just took like 25 damage from that goblin. Is that right? I was at about 45 before when I was thinking about, or maybe I fought 2 from 45. All right, anyways, that was bad. Now we're looking for a time to use these skills. Do I want to do it here? I want to persuade. So there's a pretty good chance that nothing happens with this persuade. There's a small chance that we succeed and get 1 XP for free, but that really helps us. That lets us get out of here. And there is a reasonable chance that he's going to get a free hit on me, which might make us need to heal, but probably not. So if this persuade fails, I'm going to use my chop on him. And we're trying to get a little lucky just because we're having a bad run and we suck and we need a little good luck. We lost. And they had a shot to strike, but they didn't hit me, so we kind of got lucky. Alright, I'm going to overhand chop it. Get out of here, stag. That's a 5 plus 2, I believe, is 7 damage. Strength divided by 7 works out evenly, so that you can see why I did 5 plus 2. On overhand chop, it is a d6 plus strength divided by 7. And now we just attack. And with 2/3 of his health, we should be able to get him out of here. So that's what I mean. That's why we want to shorten the fights against the harder mobs. That's why we use our skills like we do. Maybe we can get some loot. No. My luck is wretched. See? That's what it says. It's saying what you're thinking. 3 quests, 43 health, no gear. God dang it. Alright, we're running. I don't think we can kill this. I'm certain of it, actually. This guy's got a bunch of bonus damage. He's only level 4, so the damage and stuff is variable. He's got a chance to dodge. This is the easiest run of my life. Hopefully it works on the first try and I don't take any damage, because I really need 2 more XP with these quests. Alright, we rolled a 20, clutch. But that's still bad. That's still a wasted quest. Don't worry about that error. Alright, dwarf is not so bad. I'm going to save my last skill in case we get something worse. Although this dwarf, I'm going to use the skill on this dwarf. He does more damage than most dwarfs. They usually do 2 to 5, so he's got an extra bonus damage and 18 health. And like I said, I'm still at such low damage. Like, let's get out of here. We did 4 damage. Awesome. A d6 plus 1 is what we're still at. Is that true? 14 plus 5 is 19 total divided by 13. So that's 1 6/13, which rounds down to 1. Epic fail. Alright, let's kill him. But the math was right. Alright, that was pretty good. That would be good if I was a mage. That would be amazing. But as you can see, mage is marked out. Like I said before, all the weapons are specific to classes, and we are a warrior. This is an orb. I'm not going to talk too much about the orb. I'm going to leave it alone. I hope to go from 1 quest to 2. We do. And so that was actually very fortuitous. Hopefully we can get 2 more XP and be 5 out of 8. Despite having no gear, that's kind of about as good as we can do with the RNG this run. Brigand, not too dangerous. We are out of skills, correct? Not much to do except attack, and if we need to run, we will. Probably not against this guy, but the next guy, potentially. That's a goblin. I think we're going to be fine. So that orb was basically a free XP. Like I said, I wasn't going to go over the non-combat encounters too much, and I didn't, just because I've covered so much, and we are a little bit over an hour. So that was 15 quests. We did manage to gain 12 experience in 15 quests, which is pretty decent. We would have gained 13 or 14 if we had even gotten that treasure chest at a different time. The problem is we didn't get any gear, really. we got these rough slippers almost immediately and then bricked on everything. If we were to get like a two-handed weapon to start the next session, this character will be 100% fine. Like, we had some pretty bad luck, but honestly, it could have been a lot worse. We're one good gear drop away from completely fixing it, and we gained enough XP to be fine. We didn't die. Basically, what you want to do in this game is just do, just the RNG is the RNG. You can't control it. What you can control is like every micro decision you make, and they just add up. If you've ever played like competitive Magic the Gathering, if you've ever played competitive poker, like cash game poker, like the RNG of a single game or a single match or a single session is like so high. But if you play enough hands, if you put in the time and just do all these micro decisions as well as you can do, you will get your expectation in the long run over after 10,000 hands, 100,000 hands, or however many tournaments. You just will get that expectation. And this game is basically the same thing. You just try to focus on what you can control and play as well as you can. And the RNG is just the RNG. Hopefully I'll have a little bit better luck in part 2 when I play a ranger and a mage. There's going to be a lot less explanation in that one. I told you coming in, your boy is going hard. We're on a pretty high word count for this one, and I assume this will be the highest of the series. We went a little bit over an hour, but I really thank you for listening and watching, and I hope you'll come in for part 2. And all right, I feel good. Thank you for watching. That was a really bad sign off.